morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Because have you just finished with? I just noticed you just done a thing with one of your three-way chats with Glenna and Benji.
That's right. Yeah, we just finished it a few minutes ago. Yeah. I haven't even had a wardrobe change.
Oh right, or shave.
That's right. My trademark's double.
Or is this a furry look? Are you a closet furry?
I'm absolutely not a closet furry. I just like to have a little bit of stubble. It contours my face a little bit. Masks the double chin, you know. It's my look. It's very continental. I like to fancy myself.
Yeah, don't tell me about them.
How are you doing, Emma?
I'm fine, thank you. Yes, yeah. It's we've still got summer. Are you in Canada or America?
I'm in Canada.
Canada.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I presume you must be east-ish.
Yeah, east-ish. Yeah, not too far from New York. I'm on the Great Lakes, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Toronto-ish.
Toronto Central. That's right. Yeah.
Right, Mississauga. Yes, I worked in Mississauga a good few years
ago. You've been to Toronto? Oh my God.
Yes. I've worked in Canada. I worked in Mississauga, and also I worked in Pittsburgh.
Oh wow.
And then and prior to that, I had a holiday in Toronto. Had 5 days exploring Toronto, and then caught the train to Vancouver.
Oh, you took the whole train?
The whole train, yeah.
I've done that too. It's stunning, isn't it?
It is. It was. I think it was 4 days and 3 nights, and it's. Obviously, I'm interested in I'm into railways anyway for various issues, but it's the way to see the country. And going east-west, you get to go to the Rockies during the day.
That's right. The other way you miss out. Yeah.
The other way, if you go Vancouver to Toronto, if you go west-east, you do the Rockies at night. And they say, wait in the morning. So it's a little bit of snow over there. That was the Rockies, you know.
Yeah.
But it's the contrast of the two cities. You got Toronto, which has obviously got sort of, I say, a bit more history behind it. But Vancouver, I seem to call it, I don't know how well you know the UK, but I sort of call it Milton Keynes by the sea. It's very modern. You know, It's not the old town, but it's very, very modern. You know, in fact, I had 5 days there. I think that's probably about 3 days too long.
I actually, I'm from Toronto, but I was a runaway when I was younger, you know, because of homophobia in the 90s. And I actually, most runaways hitchhiked to Vancouver, but I took the train. I took the train, the Canadian. So I actually did that, but I was like 15 when I did it. And then I spent almost a year in Vancouver, just, you know, being a street kid, essentially. So I'm familiar with Vancouver, but it's been a long time since I've been there.
Yeah.
But even as like a little street-involved, you know, street kid, I got the sense that Vancouver had a much slower pace than Toronto. Glass condominiums, shiny, pretty things, but just a little bit quiet for my taste. Didn't quite have the dynamic.
Yeah. Toronto was a bit more. Toronto, I think, was a bit more, you know, on the go, as I would say, you know.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes, I've done bits of Canada.
Well, that's exciting. I'm always excited to hear when anyone's been to Toronto, because to us, we're very self-conscious about our city, and we feel like no one knows anything about it because it's never, you know, there aren't any movies that take place in Toronto. No. You don't hear much about Toronto in the media the way you do like equal-sized cities like Chicago. So we're always very like excited when anyone can even place it on the map. We get very excited.
Oh right, yeah, because it's at the top of the Great Lakes, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like it's all the movies you ever see in Hollywood are filmed here, but they're always Toronto's always standing in for some other city, pretending to be, you know, New York always, you know.
Yeah. So and obviously, of course, with Toronto, is it the path system, the underground? Shopping?
Yeah, in wintertime, you can get, I'm right downtown. I don't have to leave my house practically. I can get anywhere in the city because of all these networked underground tunnels with shopping concourses that are all interconnected.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, it is. And what sort of amazed me was that when I was there, I think it was about 90 degrees. It was about 90 bloody degrees in Toronto, you know. And I couldn't understand. I'm looking at, I could see these signs that's, you know, that warning about, you know, the snow gets this high. I'm thinking, everyone's walking around wearing shorts.
Oh yeah, it's so in the summertime, Toronto is so hot and humid. Like right now, it's boiling, and then in the winter, it's so cold, freezing cold. We get like the seasons in stereo. And springtime is very rainy, and fall is very, very colorful. It's like we really get our seasons like jacked up to 11. It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, our climate, yeah, our weather's quite temperate because of the Gulf Stream. I mean, if you look on the globe, we're further north than Toronto.
That's right. We're down at like Portugal level. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we, you know, because of this Gulf Stream, as they call it, you know, we don't get the extremes of temperature, you know, that yourselves do, you know.
Yeah, I spent a little time in London a long time ago now, like 20 years ago. I lived there for a year. And I've been back once or twice for a bit. But whereabouts in the UK are you?
I'm in the Midlands. I don't know how well you know the Midlands, but well, the UK. If you've heard of the Potteries, Stoke-on-Trent, north of Birmingham and south of Manchester, I'm actually out in the middle of the Staffordshire countryside, in a very, very small village. There's about 20 houses here, so it's all sheep, cows, and tractors, you know.
Were you always like that? Were you always in small towns, or did you grow up in the big city? Or
yeah, it's you know, I mean, I grew up in a well, sort of a city in the West Country, but you know, I moved out to Staffordshire, out the countryside. Oh, about over 20 odd years ago.
Oh wow!
You know, to a rented place, and eventually found this, you know, found this house I'm in now. So, and I, you know, bought it, and I shall be here until it becomes impossible to live. You know, obviously, if anything happens to me, you know, health-wise, and I can't drive, then I'll be in trouble. I'll need to look at something else.
Oh, by then the robots will be driving us everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You know, and in fact, I used to do contracting a good few years ago, but when I decided I'll go through transitioning, I stopped. I did some, you know, I didn't want to, you know, transition out of a bloody job, because in those days there had no legal protections, you know. So I went back onto what they call the payroll.
Yeah.
And you know, and then did all my bits and pieces there. So
when did you transition? How long ago was that?
Oh golly, I started about 25 years ago.
Wow, so that's like 90.
Yeah, mid 90s.
Mid-90s.
And I think well, say, do you ever finish it? Effectively, I finished it 18 years ago when I, you know, woke up from surgery. Or recovered. That was it. Tick, done. You know, and then you know, just get on with life. It's but of course now it's just a bloody, you know, I can't relate to it. This I mean, I noticed you on earlier. Obviously a busy day recording things. I noticed you've done your little three-way thing with Graham and Benji.
Yeah.
But yes, it's become yes, it's I just can't I can't relate to virtually all of it. I just can't, you know, what are people on? It's screwing so many people up, you know. Kids, women,
and transsexuals. Like it's so hard. I'm so glad to be talking to you, because you know, I want to make sure I'm getting this right, and that you are someone that I'm, you know, speaking up to defend as well as everyone else, you know. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, I care about the well-being of trans people just as much as everyone else.
It does. It's interesting with the language, you know, because I mean, when I was sort of, well, better word, exploring myself in my sort of, you know, childhood, you know, it was transsexual, transvestite. Nothing else. That was it, you know. And this transgender thing never existed in,
that's right,
you know, my experience. And then going through the 80s and sort of 90s, it was still TV.
But they were kind of connected in that there were sort of online forums and things where transsexuals and transvestites interacted with each other, right? Isn't that right?
There was, and they were quite sort of independent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even in real life, in the you know, I sort of participated in a couple of social groups. One up in London back in the sort of late 70s, early 80s. Before that sort of fell apart with some infighting. That was for, you know, transvestites, transsexuals, and that's where I actually met my first TS when I was about 19, 20 years old, you know, and it basically brought me down to earth with a big shock. It's
Did you identify as TV at the time, or were you ever a TV?
No, I don't. For me, this identified thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just sort of, I'm trying to, you know, having done a few podcasts with those people, I've met some fantastic people on Twitter, and there's a number of what we call sisters, you know. One of them, she transitioned 40 odd years ago, and I was speaking to her last night. I was on the phone for 3 hours, you know, because we have so much to talk about. And I mean, I was brought up, I'm pre-internet.
Yeah.
You know, my childhood, you know, it's you know, I'm a 60s child, you know, and when I listen to what people say when they say I knew I was a girl when I was 3 years old, I'm just going, what?
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that's a bit of revising their own history, perhaps. I mean,
there is. I mean, I've tried to sort of recall my childhood the best I can, and you know, and I've listened to watch the arguments on Twitter, Facebook, and other bits and pieces. And for me, I'll just think about it. You know, what made me, you know, TS or whatever. Basically, I've got no bloody idea. No one really knows.
yeah.
To be honest about it, you know, you get all these academic papers come out that say, oh, they're born this way, and then you get another one saying, no, not load of rubbish, you know. And, you know, to be honest, you know, no one really knows, you know. But I think, having spoken to a few others, there are what I call the genuine ones that you know, they get through childhood, they transition as early as they possibly can, sort of in their early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think for me, had I not gone to this social group and met these TSs that just, you know, looked like a bloody mess, I would have probably transitioned a lot earlier. But having met these people, prior to that, I'd, you know, the first thing that sort of really started making the pieces of the jigsaw fit together, of course, was the April Ashley case in 1970 that hit the news in the UK. You know, it's in all the papers, and I'm sort of reading this person's life story and thinking there's a few things there are very similar to what I'm going through as a 10, 11-year-old, you know. And and all we had was the papers. I eventually found a couple of library books on the subject, so you know, beginning to sort of work out, well, you know, transsexual, yes, you want to change your body best you can, you know. Transvestite, yeah, like to dress up as a woman, have some fun, go back to the wife and kids, you know. And of course, when I eventually discovered this social group up in London, where I was, you know, living and working, of course, I went in like a nervous 20-year-old, and of course, there's all these cross-dressers there, transvestites, and you know, well, that's a transsexual. I thought, Christ, really? You know, miserable as fuck they were, so depressed. And it brought me down to earth with a big bang, because up until then, what I've been reading about in books and in newspaper articles, of course, all these glamour models, you know, like Jacqueline de Fresnoy, you know, and April Ashley, you know, thinking, oh yeah, that's sort of, you know, is that the sort of life for me, you know? But of course, having met, when I met someone, it brought me down to life. And
Yeah.
essentially, I spent the next sort of 10 years, I think, dipping in and out of relationships with women, which didn't really go anywhere. And, you know, this bloody gender dysphoria, I still can't get my head around gender. I just can't, you know, what is it, you know?
Yeah.
And they're going about gender dysphoria, what's that, you know? But it's eventually, I've been sort of just dipping in and out of the social scene. I thought, well, be honest with yourself, you know, if this is going to work, you've got to pass. Basically, you know, the world we live in is what people see. You know, up here is irrelevant. It's what they see, you know. So I eventually started, well, I just sort out the physical side. First of all, get my appearance sorted out, because all the TSs I'd met, they were in a lot of them were in a mess, you know, psychologically, because they'd gone diving straight in. They got to the gender identity clinic, say, well, look, you need to you know, you need to sort of effectively, you know, this thing called transition, start presenting the best you can as a female, you know. And of course they are moaning, and of course they've got bits of beard coming through and things like this, you know, through the makeup, you know, thinking, why don't you get it all sorted out first of all? And then do the actual, you know, I would say, transition itself. So that's what I did. I started off sorting out my appearance.
So you were still sort of using male pronouns and things like that, and had a male name, perhaps?
Well, that's another daft thing, you see. Let's think about, what pronouns do I use? Well, ask my neighbours. They're the ones that speak to me. You know,
yeah.
You know,
maybe it's more appropriate to say, well, did you still have a male name at that point while you were setting up, so to speak?
Yeah, I was still a boy, you know, and or man, whatever. But the lady I found to do this electrolysis, because that's the only problem I had, was just beard growth. You know, it was puberty for me, I think, misfired. You know, various things didn't. I was all right downstairs, but you know, everything else, I didn't become this bloody rugby quarterback, you know, anything like that.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
You know, so but the lady that did my electrolysis, she became my counsellor, because you know, I was explaining to her what I was doing, and she had treated a number of TSs before. And she said to me, she says, you're the first one I've actually met like you that have actually got this sorted out, you know, rather than sort of diving headlong into it. And we became very close friends. She evolved into my counsellor, not to sort of talk me out of what I was doing, but really to sort of say, you know, at the end of it, you know, you've got to carry on in life functioning, you know, despite what people say, functioning as a woman.
Yeah.
You know,
that's so interesting, because I hear stories of people who transition. They're just chasing this sort of imaginary goal, and they're not really thinking of what it's going to be like when they're no longer chasing a goal, when they are a woman. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it and I see it on Twitter every day. I'm sort of going through, just watching people tweet it, you know, oh dear, I've had a bad attack of dysphoria. I'm thinking, what? You know, I mean, you know, for me, my sort of this dysphoria, it disappeared 18 years ago when I woke, you know, when I recovered from surgery, and that's it. I've just got on with life, you know.
Really? So for you, the transition, because you prepared well in advance and you knew this was going to be the right decision for you, and you were very rational about it and very pragmatic, it really did resolve completely after surgery. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Literally, I've had no, you know, since then. It's yeah, because I put and in fact, the lady, my counsellor, my electrologist, I think her words to me one day, she says that if you get this wrong, you'll spend the rest of your life in a bed sit, surrounded by dresses, crying your eyes out.
Wow.
All your self-confidence is gone, you know, and you can see that with the people that live on social media, because I'm pre-internet, you know. And I think, thinking back to timescale, how long did it take? I think from starting electrolysis, and it was I took it very, very slowly.
Mhm.
I think I took 5 years to get from starting electrolysis come out as such. I wasn't living with my pet, family's quite distant and things like this, but I didn't sort of come out at work. I got outed at work solely because I forgot about my appearance, which was changing. And this was just through the help I was getting with the electrolysis, the skincare regime, had my eyebrows done and things like this. And even though I was at work one day as my male self, I got misgendered by someone. They thought I was a woman because I was dressed casually,
Mm-hmm.
So everyone starts looking at me, and I'm thinking, oh, So then, of course, it was, right, that works. Let's just keep on going. So, and this was there's no hormones. This was completely. I even got a gender identity clinic. I just sorted out my appearance. I was living like a hybrid life as such, because I was sort of, dressing androgynously, and people just totally oblivious to who I was, and eventually then I decided, no, let's move on, let's move on to the medical pathway. So it was off to my GP and had a chat with him. He was, I think, helpfully unhelpful. He said, I've got no idea what you're talking about. Sorry, leave it with me and I'll find out. And I don't know how much you know about the UK and the medical waiting lists.
Oh, yeah. I don't know a lot, but I know that there are waiting lists, and they vary from region to region. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think some places they're quoting like there's a 3-year waiting list to get on to have your first appointment.
Wow, that's nuts.
I think for me, from seeing my doctor to get into the gender identity clinic, I think was 10 weeks.
Wow.
Because that's how, there weren't many of us around in those days. We were quite rare beasties.
That's right. Very rare indeed. Yeah.
And bearing in mind that this was before any protection, I had no legal protection whatsoever. That's why I said I was contracting, and I went back to staff working, because if with the company I was contracting for, my contract came to an end, and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm accepted a position with another company full-time as a full-time employee." And they said, "Oh, would you, if we matched your offer, would you stay?" Because also I made a good impression. So I stayed with this company. I joined a trade union, putting all this insurance in place,
Right, before you.
There's no, as I say, we had no legal protections whatsoever. I could have been sacked. Don't want you out, And but I started, so I got to the gender identity clinic. I think my first appointment was cancelled. I got there, it's daft. But a friend I was with, she says, "Why don't you go private?" Because I, again, my electrolysis, excuse me, I'd already funded that myself. So I thought, well, why not? So I went with the agreement of my GP, went to see a private psychiatrist, and I effectively tried to get him to talk me out of it, but he just looked at me, and I forget what his notes say, but by this time I was sort of just so, not very, very, very womanly looking, without trying. And I think I did after about 2 hours. Went through the usual things about, "Oh, Joe, do you think you're born in the wrong body?" No. It's my body,
There you go. I love that. Like, okay, I have this condition, but it's not supernatural.
Well, that's right. It's and I tried to get him like, are you going to challenge me on this? We said, "No, I have a prescription. That's hormones." So that was it. So I effectively went, as they say, full time. by changing my documentation on the bits and pieces. Most of it I changed anyway, because at weekends, I mean, there's a big hoo-ha, I think, a little while ago, where I think one of the banks sort of said, oh, we can let transgender people have 2 credit cards in their name. I'm thinking, I did that 22 years ago. Went to the bank, and I just said, I did actually explain to them what I was doing. They said, well, just take, I said, you're the main account holder, sir, you know. I said, why don't you get one out in a lady's name on the same account? Because you can do that, you see.
Wow.
With the main account holder's permission, anyone, with the bank I was with, anyone can have a card on your account. So there's one for Emma and one for Eddie, as I was then, you know.
Wow.
And so, of course, when I was out shopping at weekends, I had to make sure to get the right card out, you know. But because I put so much effort into the beginning, the actual medical bit was quite rapid, very rapid. I mean, I started hormones, and I had surgery 17 months later.
Yeah, but it sounds like you knew from a young age that this was something that you were gravitating towards. Is that right?
Yeah, I couldn't. If someone sort of said to you, what's made you, what's driven you to do this? I just, I got no idea. You know.
Yeah.
And, I've listened to, you know, the likes of, I mean, the best one's Blanchard, isn't it? The old HSTS AGP thing, you know.
Yeah.
And they said, well, where do you fit on that? I'm thinking I'm probably HSTS light, because, I mean, I had relationships with women, but they just didn't, there's nothing there. You know? And whether or not it was this sort of, to say this word dysphoria, was masking the fact that, yes, I am, you know, same-sex attracted. You know, I do men, I don't do women, you know. So much so that, you know, I was married. Still got my rings on, you know, the engagement ring, wedding ring, and maternity ring, you know. So I had the you know, had the white wedding, you know. but sadly my husband passed away after 18 months. I got widowed after 18 months of marriage. So
gosh, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, that knocked the shit out of me. And then
that's my mother was widowed as well, when I was a baby. Yeah, it's not easy. My mother never recovered. It's very difficult. Yeah.
So that made me an even stronger person.
Yeah.
And but you know, having had surgery, you know, again, all private, because one of the things that affected my, you know, my counsellor was saying, and my psychiatrist, they said the most important thing in your transition is your job, because it gives you the money to do things privately outside the NHS. And he said, most importantly, it gives you the social skills, because you're interacting with people. And as I say to people, you know, this thing about all this hoo-ha about the Gender Recognition Act being just a administrative change, you know, I think it's not, because when you go through the process and you get that, you know, this GRC is what they want to call it, you know, your whole relationship with society changes. And society's relationship with you changes as well. People treat you differently. Believe me, I've been there, done it, got the T-shirt, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and you know, I remember, you know, and obviously, of course, we've got this hoo-ha now over the GRA, we'll say, reform, which I think is the biggest con going. You know, they're saying it doesn't work. Why? What's wrong with it? You know. And if
it's just crazy. Like, what is everything that they're arguing for now seems at cross purposes and self-contradictory. Transsexualism, just like homosexuality, same-sex attraction, you have to acknowledge that there's such a thing as male and female, and that men and women are treated differently in society, in order to acknowledge that this phenomenon even exists or matters in the first place, right? So now that all these people are trying to jumble everything up and say that, you know, it's all just a big mess, that's kind of just erasing and clouding transsexualism. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, one of the words that when I spoke to someone, and this is 30 years ago, and I remember the words now, that with us, you know, what we do, You get all these buzzwords at the moment about people, oh, they acknowledge biology. I'm thinking, yeah, we knew that 30 years ago, mate. Because this TS, she said to me, she says, what we do is a veneer. It's superficial. What you are is what you are. We don't literally change sex. We do the best we can with surgery and hormones, and depending how long you're on hormones for, it does change certain things. So and as I say to people, they've gone about, women, men, oh, you're still a man. I'm thinking, prove it, because what I say to people is that if you take what's his name, the old, was it Alex Drummond, the
yes, the bearded lesbian.
The bearded lesbian who's expanding the bandwidth of what it is to be a woman. I'm thinking, look, mate, what you're doing is you're expanding the bandwidth of what it is to be a man. And some of us go so far that we're not next door, we're on a different planet, mate,
Yeah.
And I think of someone, one of the other sort of ladies I was chatting with, she says that essentially in society, she says, people like ourselves, we're awkward buggers because we've got a two-sex society and we don't really fit, forget intersex.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with us, we do this transition, some of us so well, people I know really well, that we're just awkward buggers,
Yeah, I've actually more than one trans woman I've spoken to has said this to me, where they're like, okay, I fully acknowledge that I'm male. I acknowledge biology, but I don't think it's right to call me a man because my lived experience for the last X number of years is just so different than a man's. They really do live in society as women. So they really are. They're male. They acknowledge that, but they're like, I reject being called a man. It doesn't fit me. I don't get the experience of being a man, and I get that. I think that's true. What do you think?
Does it? Well, see, it goes back to my philosophy. See, it's what people see, and I listen to people. I watch people on Twitter say, "No, I'm not going to call." If I see a trans woman, I'll call them a man. I'm thinking, you might have walked past me in the street.
Yeah.
It's and when people say, "Oh, we can always tell," I'm thinking, no, we
Not
can tell
always.
when you can tell because we've been doing it for so long. And what happens is that you reach this sweet spot where the TS bit effectively disappears, and you just you've reintegrated yourself back into society as the opposite, as being seen as the opposite sex. And there's a couple I know, I say one of the ladies I was chatting to last night. I mean, she transitioned 40 odd years ago, had surgery 40 years ago. She's been married. She adopted. She's got a grandson now, and most people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Have no idea, And I've had the same myself when I've been talking to people. And I'm sort of thinking back on it, I say, you don't know, do you? You can tell where the conversation's going,
Mm-hmm.
And so much so that I think it was a couple of years ago when I was talking to my hairdresser, she was talking about her holiday in Thailand, and she said, "Oh, you've been to Thailand?" I said, "Yeah, I've been to Thailand." "Oh, what did you do?" I said, "Well, I spent I was in hospital for a week." "Oh, did you have an accident?" I said, no. So I just went out there for, I was in hospital for a week. I had quite a major operation. "Oh, really? What was, did you get bitten by something?" I said, "No." I said, I went out, So I had a sex change. And she looked at me and said, "You what?" I said, I went out to Thailand. I said, I had a sex change. I said, "How?" She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Look, I was born a man. You're not, were you?" Christ, and
Wow.
and it's because you stop being, as I say to some people, just stop being bloody trans and get on with life. And some can't, and you can see it on Twitter, the ones that all get wound up, And like it or lump it, this thing about passing, yeah, tough shit, mate. Some of us, I don't say I'm perfect, but I just go with life.
No, I hear you. But
You know,
you're also, it's very refreshing to be able to talk about this stuff openly because you are very, you've come to terms with it and you don't seem to have a lot of lingering, there doesn't seem to be much trauma or distress behind your transition at all. Which means it's just so refreshing to be able to, to clear the air and to talk about these things that everyone's scared to to say the wrong thing or ask the wrong question.
And
I feel like I am not afraid to ask you anything, and that's so comfortable. We need more of these kinds of discussions for everybody to hear.
Well, we do, because you got it's clear the air.
Mm-hmm.
It's get rid of some of the rubbish that gets spouted on the gender critical side.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the classic one, which I've seen a number of times, is the surgery we have. And I can tell you, you go to a decent surgeon, and I've also spoken to other friends of mine, the decent surgeon, men can't tell the difference.
Really? Is that true? That's something, I didn't know that.
Men are, I've had sex with a number of men, and they've known. I've said, I've been open with them, and they said they can't tell the difference. And as one lady friend of mine, she says, nope, she says, all you want is the 3 W's: warm, wet, and willing, and any man will have it. And so you get all these things about, it's just an open wound. I'm thinking, nope, men can't tell the difference even by looking at it. If you go to the right surgeon, unfortunately, of course, now there's so many surgeons out there all getting onto the bandwagon.
Yeah, I certainly hear that there's problems for sure. Yeah, like about hair going inside and about having to use.
It's the quality of your surgeon. I went through. I've touch wood. I mean, I had no problems at all with the surgery, recovery wise. Apart from my back, that was nothing to do with the actual operation itself. That's because I was flat on the operating table for 7 hours, and I've got a curvy spine, and I've been coccyx damage. So ironically, the back pain was worse than dilating.
Wow.
And the dilating again is the same. They sort of say, if you don't dilate, it will close up. I'm thinking, no, when it heals, again, if you have the right surgeon, yes, you have to dilate every day at the beginning, but eventually you start to put the you extend the intervals between dilating. And when they sort of say, it's a you got to do this, thinking they don't. It's a decent film on the television, and you're watching a film. Why not pop it in?
Just do it while you're
go watch Star Wars, and and it is
just not at the restaurant though. Don't do it at a restaurant.
No. It's
just kidding, of course. Yeah.
So you get all this hype, all this rubbish that comes out from the gender critical ragfem side about all this mutilated surgery, and thinking, hey, mate, I have bloody good, I've not had sex.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, I'm very much, because I'm so critical of what's going on with the modern trans activist movement. I'm very much, I'm very much in allegiance with many gender critical people. But I also see sometimes it goes too far, and it's kind of insensitive to genuine sympathetic trans people who I very much see as my allies. I see that around autogynephilia, for example. I've seen a lot of people just really vilifying AGP, and I don't think that's fair. Because I don't think there's anything that can be done about it. People who have that orientation, they have that orientation. They have to learn to be respectful of women's boundaries, But women, I can see that also. A lot of that comes from the threat that a lot of women are feeling from this aggressive activism. So there may be kind of, that's just a side effect of what's, the people who are being impacted by this are, transsexuals like yourself. What do you think?
Well, yeah, because I mean, you talk about transphobia online transphobia. I get more crap off the trans side than I do off the gender criticals. I mean, true scum.
Oh, that's the worst. I can't believe it's people who call themselves trans. That vague prefix that doesn't even have a suffix attached to it, trans, just trans. And then they call genuine transsexuals scum. Like, I can't believe this is happening. Yeah.
And it's a shame, really, because if there's lots of myself, and there's as I say, I've got I've met some wonderful people on, through Twitter. I'm on the phone each night, people that have transitioned 40 odd years ago. We've got years of experience. We've done it. We've, if you want to understand medical history,
Yeah.
I've been there, done it, gone through, went through puberty, one of the ladies, she's, been on hormones for 40 years, knows what to do, know what the issues are, and how to look after yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's just become this fluffy identity. And in fact, that's how I got into Twitter, because with this Gender Recognition Act reform, I think my first tweet was in response to our Labour Party, which is our left-wing party,
Mm-hmm.
saying we're going to reform the Gender Recognition Act, and get rid of the outdated term of transsexual. I'm thinking, thanks, mate. You want me to vote for you, and you're saying I'm out of date. Then I started digging down, and it's a case of, it's about falling down the rabbit hole. I thought, bloody hell, and it's gone downhill ever since. Everything's built on lies. Really, there's a few of us now that are starting to call out this rubbish. So they talk about the Gender Recognition Act not working. You're thinking, why isn't it working? Well, we're not issuing enough gender recognition certificates. But you look at it, you go back through. I mean, I was involved. I did a little bit of campaigning when the GRA was going through Parliament. I mean, I spoke to my MP about it,
Mm-hmm.
And I think in Parliament they said we only expect to issue about
5,000.
5 or 6,000. You look at the numbers now, and it's not 5 or 6,000.
Right in line. And did you get one, by the way? Did you get a GRC?
Oh yes, yeah. I got the. I mean, again, they're going about the dehumanizing process, and I think timescale wise, the act came into force in November 2004. The application process opened in April 2005.
2005, yeah.
And then they had but for the first 6 months, they would not accept people. Well, they wouldn't process any applications for people that did not have, I think, 6 years or more proof. Basically, for the old timers,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my application went in because of the way I transitioned. I didn't have 6 years. I had about 3.
From the completion, so to speak.
Official, because you see, don't forget, it's officially it's the official name change on the bits and pieces,
it's the name change. I see.
Yeah, as the first part. But with the application process, my application went in I think October 2005, and I think allowing for Christmas, I got my certificate came through. I think it's about January 2006, and but with this dehumanizing process, the documentation you supply mirrors what you go through. So when they talk about the medical reports, they want one psychiatrist report who's registered as a practitioner in gender dysphoria, and another medical report of a registered GP, which is what you have when you go through the process, because this psychiatrist looks after your mental health as you are readjusting to society as the opposite sex, and your GP is monitoring your physical health, because obviously you're pumping yourself, but you are taking, medication that your body's not really supposed to have,
Yeah.
And your mental health is being monitored, your physical health is being monitored, and when they talk about the proof of proof of living as in the opposite gender, I want to call it, I mean, for me, I think I submitted a copy of a driving license, But the secondary evidence comes up with his psychiatrist because he says, I've been treating Emma for, X years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the second thing. So you gather all this evidence together, and yes, 140 quid, and off it goes. And all this gender recognition panel they don't say, oh, this person's trans and this person isn't trans. They just check the evidence to make sure that,
that you're not a chancer, essentially, right?
Yeah, it's, they just check the evidence that the psychiatrist has sort of correctly followed the sort of application procedures, and as I say, this thing about the certificate itself, they say GRC holder. That's another misnomer, because all the GRC is it's a document that is sent to the office to the Registrar General to issue a replacement birth certificate. That's it. That's his only function. So when people keep talking about GRC holders,
it's not like you have a wallet where you can whip it out and be like, ha!
You don't talk about, I'm a woman,
Exactly.
So so in reality, if someone sort of says, "Oh, let's see your gender recognition certificate," I can just say, "I haven't got one."
Like, "Oh, here you go."
Here's my birth certificate, and that's it,
Yeah.
And it's a shame because again, the way that all the talk's gone on about the GRA and about you don't need it now because we got same-sex marriage. But I'm thinking, but that was only one part of the GRA. It was built around people that just transitioned and got on with life and wanted to blend back into society. And I think a couple of them, they passed really well until they had to out themselves by, producing their birth certificate to sort out their national insurance and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's all about privacy and the right to life. But now, thanks to Stonewall, bless them, that they've come up with this lie that it's not working. Yeah, because all you've done is you've got this nebulous thing called transgender.
Yeah.
That doesn't apply to 5,000 people. It actually applies to 500,000.
Or 1 million even. Yeah. Like it's just ludicrous. These are people who they're just trying to make this very, very. And what's really fascinating is that. Yeah, a couple of years ago, people were really digging through what do you call it? I don't know what you call it. When the GRA was being proposed in 2004, there was like open discussion, like a consultation or something. Is that what you call it in the UK? And there was all this debate and discussion, and it's all been archived. It's all available. And it's just amazing because the trans activists, the people pushing the GRA, were all saying, it'll only be 5,000 to 6,000 people. They were very clear that this isn't really changing your sex. And they were very clear that it's just a small number of people. And that if it were to be bigger, it would be disruptive to society. So they emphasized that it'll only be 5,000 to 6,000 people because they were making it very clear that this is a tiny, tiny number. And if it were to be 1 million people, it would be too disruptive and we wouldn't be asking for it. So like they're kind of, everything they were saying then is just, they are sort of exposing their own guilt, that side, because they're all arguing different things now, when back then they were open about this stuff. You know what I mean? And they were like, yes, there absolutely has to be gatekeeping. There absolutely has, this and that. The stuff they said then, they'll all scream and shout, but it's all transphobic to say it now.
It's, the classic one is here, surgery. When the GRA was being sort of debated, the internet was quite young. So we had the bulletin boards, and I remember one there's a couple of us, when we found out that surgery wasn't a requirement, and we raised this, cool, dear, did some of us get the hairdryer treatment,
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, hold on, that's, and there's a number of us back then thinking, if surgery is not a requirement, I said, you've opened up the back door, and people will use it. And I think that's what, and I think if they go over to the self-affirmation model, I can just see people queuing up to use it, because you get all this rubbish about toilets. We got male cleaners. I said, but and they talk about people, men using it to get into ladies' toilets to assault them. I said, they won't assault them. it'll be the men that go into ladies' toilets, with their little hidden camera. And if they get challenged, they just go, "Sorry, I'm a woman."
Exactly. And that seems to be, and they don't even have to anymore, because now it's about conditioning the women to say you're not allowed to challenge anyone.
Yes.
It's preemptively, no one's going to challenge anyone anymore. And that's already exactly the state of affairs in Canada. Man in a women's loo, everyone's like, oh, keep your mouth shut. You never know, right? You don't want to get in trouble. They have the weight of the law and they have the benefit of the doubt on their side now, Yeah.
And
it's all about, cameras. Like, oh my God,
quite, it's just like,
I've been on Pornhub. I don't look at that stuff myself, but it exists. It's just insane, the amount of voyeurism porn.
You see it in the papers, I think of one of Graham Linehan's chats, he mentioned the fact that you get all these trans allies that end up in bloody court on child pornography charges.
They don't protest too much. These ones who are screaming and shouting about the rights of people who haven't really made much of a meaningful transition to get further and further into women's spaces. It's like, now we know why they're so invested in this cause.
It is, and I think it's going to, and there's no need for it. The government, they keep backtracking on it. With this reform, and they keep saying it doesn't, it marginalizes non-binary people, whatever they are.
All of us. I'm non-binary. Fuck you.
I can't get my head
also
around
I'm a guy. Like, give me a break.
I can't get my head around that at all. I just can't. It's so the government have said they'll publish something over the summer. We're now halfway through August. At the moment, we've got Brexit, we've got COVID, we've got the exam cock up.
Oh yeah.
And I personally, I hope this GRA reform just gets pushed to one side and forgotten about.
Yeah, the longer it's pushed aside, the more, because the momentum, I think, is on the side of people who are saying these reforms are bad and they're not well thought through. So the longer it's delayed, I think the better the outcomes will be for everyone. Don't you agree?
Yes, because I would hope that it does get pushed to one side, and I really hope as well. I think we need. I think when it comes to sort of the what we call the single sex exemptions in the we have this thing called the Equality Act, which was brought in 2010.
2010 Equality Act,
which hoovered up lots of different sort of bits of legislation and created these 9 protected characteristics. Obviously, I think as you've been talking earlier on, we've got this daft thing at the moment where you can't, if you're gender critical, you can't join the police. You have to believe.
That is so shocking. It's not even if you're gender critical. It's if you don't believe a person can literally change biological sex. This woman, she says, I think it was a woman. She said, I believe in protecting the rights and dignities of trans people, and I would never, but I don't believe one can literally transform their biological sex. And there are all these assholes in HR are like, no, you're not welcome on the police. That is scandalous. That's like saying if you believe that gay marriage should be legal, you're not welcome on the police, or if you believe,
well, what is the difference? The next thing is if you went to join the police force and say, oh, by the way, I don't believe in God.
Exactly.
What's the difference?
Yeah, and she said that too in her reply. She said, look, I'm an atheist. I still would protect the rights of religious people, and it wouldn't get in my way of protecting, if a church was being vandalized or something, the fact that I don't believe in God wouldn't get in the way of my ability to enforce laws. And then they're like, it's just, oh my God, it's just so shocking. Why don't people see how shocking that is,
Well, it's because they've been quite, in some respects, people like myself, we're our own worst enemy, because we transition, and then just melt back into society. That's it. But if you with this Equality Act, as I say, as far as people like myself are concerned, I mean, the first bit of protection we got in law was the Sex Discrimination Act was amended in 1999 to bring in gender reassignment, which gave transsexual people protections at work from discrimination and training, providing you're under medical supervision.
Mm-hmm.
That was the key word, you see. So if you went to your doctor and said, yep, I'll refer you to the gender identity clinic. And then if you went to work and said, look, I'm doing this, if they went, oh, we're going to sack you, they'll say, look, sorry, I've been to the doctors, I've got, I'm going down this medical pathway.
Mm-hmm.
It gave you protection, limited protection at work, in employment, and I think training, and that was it. And the Gender Recognition Act was a completely separate vehicle altogether. That was nothing to do with to do with that. That was just the GRA was effectively marriages, pensions, and privacy. That's what the GRA was about.
So there was a 1999 Equalities Act that was about workplace protections, and that was completely separate from the 2004 GRA, which was about
the Sex Discrimination Act was amended in. There's a new set of, I think it's the Sex Discrimination Gender Reassignment Regulations were brought in 1999, and as I say, it just gave people at work limited protection from people that are medically transitioning. So therefore, it had in there under medical supervision.
So does that mean you had to be ongoing medical supervision in order for you to qualify?
Yeah.
That's a problem, because what if you're years into what if you transitioned 20 years ago and you're just,
Well, that's what I did. I mean, I started,
Yeah.
long before this came in, and I know a number of TSs that transitioned in the UK, 30 years ago, and they still did it. It was and what you did is that effectively what you do is you sort of all you're doing is you're earning respect for who you are, and it's what is in us innately. We just want to get on with our lives and in peace, and which we did very well. I mean, I think I know of one TS that got sacked, not because they were TS, I think because they're an idiot. Nothing to do with their transition, anything like that, But as I say, in the 80s, when I was sort of dipping in and out of like this social scene, I came across about half a dozen TSs, and they all had jobs, so things obviously improved to the previous ones I've met in like the late 70s, early 80s that were just a mess and made me sort of rethink my approach on life. So that was the first bit of protection we had. But as I say, the Gender Recognition Act came along, and again, it was sort of aimed at the people that affected the 1999 regulations sort of covered, you see, because again, you'd medically transitioned and got on with life. When the outgoing Labour government brought in the 2010 Equality Act, which I think was a bit of rushed legislation, as their parting shot, what the Equality Act did was it hoovered up all the bits of legislation covering race, disability,
these protected characteristics or whatever they're called.
To make these 9 protected characteristics, and and of course the problem started, I would think, that putting aside queer theory, that's another discussion in itself. But essentially, the 2010 Equality Act, with the protected characteristic of gender reassignment, the medical requirement went and became this very loose, incredibly loose-bellied description.
Oh, it's like meaningful, undergoing meaningful transition. Was that the wording?
It is, yes. It and that word meaningful means you have to, once you've told someone, that's it. You're protected. You don't have to do anything. You just tell someone that I'm transitioning. And you
right. That's not that you can't materially distinguish meaningful versus not meaningful.
No,
There's no
it's
material
very,
definition.
it's a very, very badly. It's so loosely worded.
Yeah.
But what's happened is that because people or these organisations like Stonewall that eventually got hold of trans, once gay marriage had come in, they'd lost it. You know, the Stonewall UK was formed to fight Section 28, as we had it, of the Local Government Act. That got repealed in 2003, I think it was.
And then they ran out of sassy, splashy issues. Yeah,
that's right. And then the same-sex marriage came in 2014.
Yeah.
Tick. Okay.
And I think it was like within 12 months of that, they announced that they were now LGBT. They slapped the T on there, right?
Yeah. What should we do next? Oh, hello.
Yeah.
And I can remember it now. When the GRA was going through Parliament, I cannot recall any support from the likes of Stonewall, all the other they weren't around. They were not interested.
Yeah, now that's interesting on two levels. First of all, I find that the sort of merging of the LGB and the T happened much later in the UK.
Oh, it did, yeah.
In Canada, LGBT, trans and gay were had merged much earlier. I'd say the early 2000s is when we really these two movements were united. It felt to me, if not sooner. But it's so weird that the UK was much later on that train before they started adopting the T and gay rights issues. But then they went so far into it. They they were over eager to catch up.
It's one extreme to the other, because I think on the social level, what I call the trannies, they would go to the gay nightclubs in London, Manchester and a few other places. But they sort of kept themselves to themselves. They kept themselves apart. They were sort of effectively, as far as like the gay scene was concerned, the TVs and to some extent the TSs was sort of, okay, you can come in, don't make a noise,
Well, I get that a lot. I worked at a trans bar in the late 90s for a while. It was affiliated with the gay village of the gay community, and there was some drag going on, but there were also there was kind of like, it just seemed like it's a mixture. There were drag performers who were just drag queens. Some of them were actually transitioning and getting bottom surgery and getting breast implants and hair removal. And some of them were just sort of heterosexuals who were all, it was a real mixed bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a very interesting time, but nobody denied biology. They were very much sort of felt like a motley gang of outsiders, who just hung out at this bar and had no money. Nobody had it. Everybody had very little money. But it was like it was a community. It felt like a community, and it felt like very mixed, gays and straights. It was just everybody. Their whole thing was that they dressed as women, and they had some affinity with womanhood to some degree. Does that sound like something that makes sense to you back in the 90s? Was it like that sometimes?
Yeah. It's effectively sort of, we all got along together, really. It's just the way Stonewall UK have got, and then of course with social media, all these narcissists that have come out the woodwork, they're all this quite blatant homophobic, this thing about not accepting genital preference and things like this.
Oh yeah, the cotton ceilings.
It's whereas I sort of say to people again, this is why people like me, we're awkward we are, because when it comes to sort of homosexuality and same-sex attraction, what we do is we transition ourselves out of the gay dating pool, because we talk about it. Gay men want a bit of cock, which I don't know. Sorry,
gay men don't want feminine presentation; they want masculine presentation. Right.
So we transition ourselves out of the gay dating pool, And in fact, my husband, when I got married, he was straight. Yeah. And all right, biology is biology, but we were in a heterosexual relationship,
Yeah.
man woman. I gave my, because I'm legally female, I gave my wedding vows as a woman. So we got married as husband and wife, and it
Right.
was a heterosexual marriage in the eyes of the law.
Yeah. And in practical senses too. I'm sure this person was completely straight, right? Like,
Was his third wife. His previous wife, she passed away, and he wasn't. He wasn't. He was not gay, and yes, we met through a dating site. For TSs, because he was sort of interested, and but he saw me for who I was, not what I was. He saw woman when we went out together. We were a couple, a heterosexual couple. That's what the world seed.
And that's a huge population, like of straight males who want to date TSs and see them as women in all practical senses and don't identify as gay. And I know that might be sort of it's like blasphemy within the gender critical scene to say, well, technically this is a homosexual relationship, strictly biologically speaking, but in all practical terms, it really isn't. I don't think it's a threat to feminism or a threat to gay rights to say that there are cases where men will date TSs and see it as a heterosexual relationship. I think it's just a natural fact,
Well, yeah, because it's as I said, for us, you see, we transit. No gay man would want me.
You're a woman, and for all intents and purposes, right? You don't have a dick. You look like a woman.
It's
yeah. Sorry to be blunt, but
if I'm naked, it's going to be the I've got a fanny and the boobs and things like this. So what gay man would want me?
Mm-hmm.
It's, as I say, I've widened the bandwidth of what it is to be a man so far. I'm in the next, not next door. I'm in Canada, across the Atlantic.
Right. But you're doing so without trampling on women's rights. I believe you, as far as I know, I believe that you care about, like women's protections.
Well, what we do, it's, women's rights. Toilets are toilets. Just go for a pee. But
like, what about changing rooms, shower rooms? Like the lines are very messy, and it's like I could totally understand that when we're broadening the term trans to be meaningless, essentially, that's really frightening for a lot of women, and rightly so.
It is, because again, it's when they talk about male-bodied. All right, yes, I might come across as hypocritical, because when I used to go to the gym, I would go to the change rooms, get changed, put my swimming costume on, go for a swim around the pool, back to the changing room, have a shower, walk around the changing room with a towel, round here. But when I started the transitioning process, a couple of very close lady friends, they said you're not going to have any problems, because you said you're not built like a man. There's nothing manly about you, So you're just male-bodied, Some of us, again, we're the awkward ones. They go on about, you can spot it by the big hands, the big feet. Nope, I haven't got those.
Not you. Yeah, very often people do though. It's really hard. I think passability is like you said, there are some who do. But often they don't though. Very often it's hard.
We're a minority, in a minority, and so showers, changing rooms. Obviously, I'm post-op anyway. But when it comes to other women's opportunities, in the industry I work in, I'm an engineer, and we have this initiative called RISE, Women in Science and Engineering, And there's been a few times at work they said, "Oh, you want to go up on these awards?" I said, "No, they don't know my history, I said, "No, that's not for me." I said it, and I think on Twitter, I've only been reported twice. I think one of the tweets I got reported for, there was something to do, I think it was the Royal Astronomical Society, again about scientists, and encouraging women to take up,
STEM,
like this, science and tech.
Yeah.
And I responded back to someone had tweeted, and I said, no, I wouldn't do that, because I wouldn't. What I am today in my job, I wouldn't be here had I been born female. You know, I had a male privilege head start in life, and so of course I got reported for that. You know,
That's like insane, right? Like,
you know, it's like it's the same in politics. All women shortlists. You know,
mhm.
why they're there for women? Yeah, they are there for the female sex to give them a head. Yeah, to give them a lift up.
Yeah, to help correct the imbalance in society.
You know, in
Exactly.
this male-dominated society, and
Mhm.
no, you know, and it's ironic that if you look at our political system, it's the Labour Party that has all women shortlists. I think get this right.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
Conservative Party doesn't, but the Conservative Party have had 2 female prime ministers. You know, we've had our 2 female prime ministers, Margaret Thatcher and oh crikey, I forgot the name now. Theresa May, obviously are conservative leaders. You know,
Mm.
Labour, the left, you know, they got all these shortlists, which all the tranners can pile onto those at heart's content, you know, and it's if you look at how things are going in politics, it just seems to be the right. It's our right of the political spectrum that is kicking up all the fuss in support of women against the left wing that are not interested in women's rights. It's trans rights.
Isn't it strange? Yeah, Graham and I have talked about this numerous times. How like the political everything's just upside down and inside out. The people who are talking about it, the National Review is publishing stuff that's critical of trans activism and pro women's boundaries and safety and pro safe sex. And I'm like, the National Review? Wasn't it William F. Buckley who was saying that there should be like mandatory tattoos for gay men who are HIV positive? The government. Yeah, like this is like, that is just horrific stuff. It was just deeply homophobic stuff. And now they're the ones publishing these articles that are like the trans activist movement is harming gays and lesbians and harming women's rights. And it's like, what the fuck, It's so weird. The left and right, everything's upside down. The political allegiances are all over the place. Yeah.
You know, you'd think the left would be sort of equality for all, for all, everyone, but it's but as you say, over here, we've got the right, the right of centre party, the Conservatives, they've had 2 female leaders, and it's the Tory MPs and peers that are speaking up about trans rights, also speaking in support of the Labour MPs that the water, like Rosie.
So weird. I've always been a very lefty kind of person, so I just find this so bizarre.
So obviously over here, of course, we've had J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. Then there's been Rosie Duffield, who's a Labour MP, and the support she's got come from the Conservatives
over services. Yeah.
They're completely quiet, and then of course you've got this Labour campaign for trans rights, and they're shaming all the MPs that won't sign their their 10 demands.
It's just horrifying. And wasn't it? Who was that in the Green Party too? Was it Amy Challenor, the nightmare? That is Amy Challenor, who's living in the fetish shack with her father, who's a crossdresser, and then who kidnapped the child and tortured the child. Remember? What the actual? And is now married to a valid pedophile.
Yeah,
and then this person, and is a furry too, and is a baby diaper fetishist, I believe. This is like and then this person leaves the Greens, complains it's all transphobia, even though they've been deeply involved with their father, who was literally kidnapped and tortured a 9-year-old girl. Unbelievable.
I think their father was on remand, or being charged with, kidnapping.
Yeah, I don't know how it works in the UK, but they had been charged and was just undergoing trial and was just still living at home.
And and Amy, this, said that put his father down as their parliamentary agent,
and was living in this shack with this person. It's like a little shack.
There's torture chamber in the attic.
That's right. Yeah.
And so of course it all came out as a scandal. So the Greens appointed external consultants to find out what had gone wrong, and it was a case of they just would not admit to having a problem, with Amy, who seems to have this sort of problem. I mean, they left the Greens because of transphobia. I'm thinking, no, it was a case of, oh, you leave or you're going to get kicked out.
Yeah, but that's just shocking that the Greens were still trying to be polite about it. They should have been like, get the fuck out of here, you're an absolute horrifying person. But because of the T word, they were like, you know. And then did this person join the Lib Dems? Didn't they end up joining the Lib Dems?
Yes, they joined the Lib Dems. And I think I recall somewhere, I think there was a Twitter spat with a Labour trans activist. It was something which was interesting. And of course, with Amy, I think Amy was one of the reasons why Miranda Yardley got banned from Twitter.
Oh no, it's so ridiculous. He's such a cool guy.
I think Miranda called Amy a man. That was it, boom. It was so but it's just red flag city. And what annoys me is that you have these trans people and they just don't call it out. They will not call out these people. They're all inclusive, And it's getting worse, I think, because what's the latest thing, particularly with the lesbian and gay movement and pride? It's what's the latest thing? If you don't have furries, you're not inclusive enough.
That's right. Yeah. Every day there's something crazy, isn't there? Like every day. No, but people have to speak out. Like I'm LGBT. I'm in the broader rainbow, and I'm speaking out. That I see problems within that broader community. But yeah, I think we really need more transsexuals, trans people, to be speaking out and calling out these problems. Like, for example, one thing that bothers me is that this complete refusal to misgender, even when somebody clearly does not earn that gender. Like Jonathan Yaniv, Jessica Yaniv, do you know this person in Canada?
Who doesn't?
Like, right. Like, nobody should be referring to this person by female pronouns, because in doing so, you're saying this person, you're saying this person to you well recognize them as a genuine trans person. And I don't think that's reasonable. I think you should be very explicitly saying, no, this is a crystal clear example of someone you reject from the trans identity. And you should do that by explicitly refusing to acknowledge their pronouns. You know what I mean? This is a pedophile and a racist who is an extortionist and an exploiter who is just using trans identity to harm people very explicitly. If there's a perfect example of a time when you say no, don't you think?
Well, we got the same thing. It's almost become this trans thing. It's become it's like a layer of armor plating. It's and we seem to have sleptwalked into this thing where you daren't be questioned. And so you get people now, of course, as we say, we'll say don't try. So you got this, bloody Alex Drummond still can't get over him, the lesbian, with the beard and the. But of course, if you comment, if you pass comments about this, again, you're being transphobic. And I've had a number of sort of run-ins on Twitter with these so-called allies, where you look at someone posts a photograph and, oh God, they look a fantastic woman, thinking it's a bloke with a beard, mate. Oh dear, you're I think, what is it? You're reinforcing cis-normative appearances. Thinking it's a bloke.
Yeah.
We live in a two-sex society.
Yeah,
that's it, nothing else. And for me, and again, the likes of us, we've learned to adapt to this two-sex society. We've learned to go from one side to the other, and melt into the background and just carry on with life. Now it's the you get all these complaints about there's not enough visibly trans people around. Think, well, ones that don't pass.
Yeah,
God,
right.
And and there's some of the sort of, I'll say, the gender criticals go on with some of them. I'm thinking, yeah, you're right, because you're being told one thing, but you can see something completely different. If your brain doesn't, and if you make a slip up, and accidentally misgender someone, death penalty.
Yeah, it's just so the stakes are so high. So nobody wants to go near this topic because the stakes are so high. And I think a lot of outsiders actually are very reasonable about this. They just don't want to wade into it because they just see so many people getting shot down and killed, so to speak, canceled, for saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. I have a number. I try not to tell too many people in my real life about all this activity I've got going on online, but occasionally I'll let someone in and share with them what I'm doing, what my activism is. I like to fancy myself a bit of an activist, but really I'm just a.
Well, I've got so many, a number of, say, wonderful people I've met through Twitter. They're not particularly, open about it, and they're just sitting there, and the pressure's rising. They can, they put the effort in, 30, 40 years ago, and they can see these, blue-haired, non-binary people going off. And of course,
have you met Karina Cohn? Do you know this person?
Karina Cohn? I've not met her. I've read a couple of I've seen a couple of their podcasts, and I think with one of her tweets, which led to me being I've obviously got my own little channel, but I've done various other podcasts with other people. One of them is the trans man Mars.
Oh yeah, Mars. That's right. Yeah.
I've been on.
I met Mars once on a group.
Yeah. Now I've been on his channel twice now, and my last time, effectively, was in response to I tweeted in response to Karina Cohn's one of her tweets about the dysphoria, and I think my tweet was, "Why did you bother transitioning if you've not resolved it?" That was me, And as I said with Mars, as I said tonight, forget the journey, it's the destination that counts.
Yeah, well, that's the case for you for certain, but I think for trans women that really doesn't. I think that's the exception rather than the rule. It would seem to me. You obviously know a lot more trans people than I do, and people who transitioned a long time ago when it was very different. The kinds of people who were engaged in transitioning came to this decision on their own because it wasn't promoted in the media. You know what I mean? So the kinds of people who
we're the pre-internet age. We've not.
So you had to really you had to discover this within yourself that you wanted to transition. Whereas now it's every billboard in town is telling you to do it.
You feel left out. You can see what they feel left out. Then they do it, and it's a case of is that it? And of course, the ones I feel sorry for, obviously the detransitioners that seem to be coming out the woodwork.
Yeah.
And the thing I find scary. And I think it's the current hot topic. It's the children,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, all these people say, I was a trans kid. And I think to myself, well, I wasn't.
That's right. You were a kid who had dysphoria and distress. Well, guess what? So was I. I was a trans kid by those terms. It's bullshit. Most people who have those feelings, it goes away, and you cannot tell. Unless you have a DeLorean and a flux capacitor, and Marty McFly will drive you back in time. You have to go to the future and see whether you're trans or not before you can go back in time to see whether that kid is trans. You cannot tell, ever, whether a child is going to grow up to become a transsexual or not.
As I say, I know, just sort of relating to myself, but a few of the other sort of, sisters I've spoken to, we've got roughly the same sort of experience in that, we know something's different about, we know something's there when we're younger. What causes it? No idea,
Yeah.
And, all this thing about, born trans, thinking, no, you're not born trans, mate. It's something, and this is, there's nothing, it's a shame really. There's no research onto why, some of us do what we do. There's something there as we develop that triggers what we do, but there's a number of us, we go through puberty with no problems at all, and we don't develop effectively, so I didn't become this massive quarterback,
And maybe that's not a coincidence. The fact that you didn't have a very masculine body, and the fact that you felt very feminine, that sounds like there's something to do with in utero hormone exposure or something,
Well, possibly. I mean, I didn't feel, when I sort of look at I try to retrace my childhood, we call certain things, and I compare it to like mermaids and this gender spectrum, and according to them, I'm not trans. Thinking back, I'm thinking I didn't do girly things. I fell out of trees. I do train sets. Still do train sets. There's a model train set in there I'm trying to build.
Oh, I love model trains.
So I did boy things. All right. I think there's anecdotal evidence that I was a bit sort of, as they say, girly in some of my reactions. These sort of issues I had sort of kept developing through childhood. They didn't go away through adolescence, and I popped out the other side. All right, yes, I had a bit of some quite dark beard growth, but that was it, nothing else, and as I say, when I sort of couldn't relate to women, am I homosexual? And to me, it was like a jigsaw, bits and pieces. There's no one little thing that says it's this. That's what's caused it.
Yeah.
So when I say started down the transitioning path, the physical side was a doddle really for me. And I just sort of as I say, the words as she said, when I cut my friends, they said, nope, we said, you're not built like a man. You've not got a manly body. Nothing manly about you, Ting, like a perfect woman. The only thing is I do trains, I take things apart, do my concreting, and it's
absolutely.
And that's why they talk about this gender non-conformity. I'm thinking that's a lot of crap as well. It's it's just
But I get it though. Like I was also a boy who I loved Legos and train sets as a kid, but I was also very feminine in other ways. And I was sensitive, and I identified much more with women than men, and I felt dysphoric. I think it's hard. I'm very cautious about using that word about my own childhood because I don't remember. Your memory isn't accurate, but I was distressed about the fact that I was a boy. But I think there's something to gender nonconformity. I think generally boys were who either feel it within themselves or express it within others who are very feminine. They are much more likely to turn out gay, for example. And same with obviously not all tomboys are lesbians. By no means, but extreme distressed masculine girls are very likely to be lesbians.
Yeah, it's I think for me, with women, I mean, I can empathise with them, and as I said on one of my podcasts with I think the first one I did with Mars was that I can tell the difference. Women and men have a different chemistry. I've got a circle of male friends. And I've got a circle of female friends, and the chemistry is different. You can suss this out, and that's where I think a lot of the trans people fail. They don't recognise this chemistry that women have that's different from what men have. For some reason, I can just pick up on this.
Well, that's something that sort of I think a lot of these people who are identifying as trans women now, I would say they don't exhibit particularly feminine chemistry or characteristics and behavioral patterns. And that's another reason I'm so alarmed. And I think that's why a lot of people are so gender critical. It's because, you know what I mean? There are a lot of people who are HEP who are not particularly effeminate at all. If you took a distribution curve of amounts of masculinity that people have, these people would be on the far masculine side of things. And their affinity with appearing feminine doesn't correlate to sort of, like you were saying, sort of being built like a woman, or not like a man, and sort of it's strictly superficial. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes. Well, so they really don't fit in with women at all.
Well, quite, I think is when I caught the tail end of your three-way chat. I mean, the classic one is there a photograph somewhere of what's his name, Charlotte Clymer, talking to a woman, and he's sort of hunched like this, and he's pointing down, this big masculine, poor little woman there cowering,
That's right. It's very masculine, hostile.
Yeah, it's a classic, and they're just so uncomfortable, and you can see that they're overcompensating. Their body's overcompensating, and that's how most trans don't pass. You can have the headshot, but people see the whole body.
Yeah.
When you move, how you react.
Yeah, I've heard
You
that
know,
like lesbians, like somebody will get their perfect headshot for their profile on the lesbian dating app, and then a lesbian will go on a date with them, and then they meet them in person. And it's like, oh, you're very
yeah,
clearly
straight away. Yeah,
male. Yeah, yeah. And I see that where I work too. There's a lot of trans people coming and going, and you know, I see the whole spectrum every day.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole, and that's what people see in real life. It's the whole picture, you know.
Hmm.
So you know, so as I've, you know, when I was, you know, before this COVID thing, you know, and I was traveling the world, you know, airport security, you know, you got the part, particularly in the Middle East countries, you know.
Oh wow, yeah. Oh,
You
that's
know,
interesting. It's a
when you
lot
go
of
through
level.
security, you know, your passport, you know, and I have, you know, no problems at all. And you know, as you know, as one of my friends has said, you know, we reach this sweet spot in life where you've done it for, it just becomes natural, you know, and you just get on with life.
Yeah.
And the ones now, you can see them, they just can't, you know, they're, I think someone said to me, I think someone said to me once, I was born to be trans. Possibly.
But listen, we should probably wrap this up because
I know,
it's.
yes, we've done well. Golly, hour and 40 minutes.
I know. I'm going to cut out some of the beginning.
Yeah,
You know, we'll find a sort of natural entry part for the actual. I'm going to edit it a bit if
yeah,
that's okay by you.
that's fine.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we
Not,
press stop?
no, I think what we'll do is we'll have to do it again sometime. Give it a month or so. We'll, you know, we'll have to
Yeah.
in the chat. So, 'cause I've got my channel as well, so I have to do a
Yeah.
reciprocal, you know, get you on with Sharm, my other partner in crime.
Yes.
You know,
I was just going to say, yeah.
you know, she got you know, that, again, that was through Twitter and me doing a podcast with what's her name, Serini, you know, because afterwards Sharm, you know, she got in contact. She said, great, she says, I found another sane transsexual, you know, and we sort of hit off together, you know. So there's going to be, I think, with this, despite COVID, I think there's going to be a few parties happening sometime. You know, we're going to have to start, you know, we'll start meeting up face to face, you know. But I think it's you know, this whole trans issue, it needs it needs resetting. You know, it's screwing everything up. You know, women, children, lesbians, and gays. You know,
And trans people themselves too
and,
are not.
yes,
You know, we were saying like this new phenomenon of all these young people jumping into it. I feel just as bad for the ones who are going to detransition as I
yeah,
do for the ones who aren't, who are going to be left in society. If there's a massive backlash against trans, and if we can just see that this has just been this massive bubble and this fad, what about the ones who actually are benefiting from transition? They're going to
well,
be always
right.
second guessed and doubted by everybody. You know?
It's you know, so there's a, yeah, I said with a couple of sort of the other friends I've met on here, you know, some of us, you know, being selfish about it, I said we won't care because we, you know, we'll just carry on. You know, you can is what we've been doing. You know,
Well, that's good. It's so healthy to be able to be trans on your own terms and to not be just, it's not about getting validation from others. It's about finding grounding within yourself and doing what you want and being happy with yourself and at peace with yourself. It's so amazing that you are a 100% that. But I see this missing in a lot of people who have taken on transition. And that's unfortunate. There has to be better healthcare, better psychiatric care for these people. It has to be better. The only way to make it better is to talk about it more openly instead of euphemizing it and hiding it behind this sort of pseudo-religious gender identity babble.
And the strap lines, you know, trans women are women, trans men are men, all non-binary.
Yeah. No, they're not. You have to be realistic. Trans women are trans women. You're never, you know, you're going to be occupying a gray area your whole life, and you better know that before you embark on this journey.
As I said on our chat, you know, on the chat I did with Graham Linehan, you know, what we do, we transition to fit into society. The current generation are trying to transition society to fit them, and it's not working.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, society. No, sorry, you know, like this thing about cis, you know, you must be cisgender.
Why? Yeah, exactly. Imposing it on everyone. That sounds like a great way to end it. It's a perfect little mwah.
Yeah, I will speak soon. All right.
Yes, we will talk soon. It's been great. It's gonna take me a couple days to be able to edit this and get it up. But yeah, it's been so great.
Brilliant.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye.